Dear class 7 students, welcome to today's English class. Today we have another unit from our literary reader. The name of the unit, More Than True. This is a story which is written by Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is a familiar writer for us. He was born in the year 1861 and died in the year 1941. He has written in Bengali poet, short story writer, song composer, playwright, essayist and painter who introduced new prose and verse forms and the use of colloquial language into Bengali literature, thereby freeing it from traditional models based on classical Sanskrit. He was highly influential in introducing Indian culture to the West and vice versa, and he is generally regarded as the outstanding creative artist of early 20th century India. In 1913, he became the first non-European to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. Now, dear students, we have the story More Than True. I hope you all like stories. Have you ever read a story and imagined being a part of it? How your grandparents or parents ever told you stories? Do you enjoy the stories told by them? Do you think that the stories they have told you about themselves are true? What kind of stories do you enjoy listening to the most? Now, let's listen to this story. We knew grandchildren enjoy the stories told by their grandparents. Why does this grandfather say that they are more than true? Now, I'm going to play a reading of this story. After that, we will come and see the story in details.
Grandpa, that more than truth you were talking about the other day, is it to be found only in fairyland? Not at all, my dear, said I. There's a lot of it in this world of ours. You only need to look. But, of course, you must have the eye to spot it. Can you see it? That's one power I do have. I suddenly catch sight of things that aren't meant to be seen. When you sit by my side learning your geography, I remember my own studies. That Yangtze-Kiang river of yours, every time I read the name, it conjured up a kind of geography that was absolutely no use in passing exams. Even now I can see that long caravan with its enormous load of silk. I once found a place on the back of one of those camels. Come off it, Grandpa. I know you never rode a camel in your life. Really, Didi, you ask too many questions. Never mind, go on. What happened then? Where did you get a camel from? There, another question already. I never worry about finding camels. I simply climb onto one. Whether or not I visit other lands, nothing stops me from traveling. That's the way I am. Well, what happened after that? After that, I passed through so many grand cities one by one. Fuchung, Hangzhou, Chongqing, Chongqing, Changkang. I crossed so many deserts, finding my way at night by the stars. And then I came upon the jungle at the foot of the Ushkush mountains, past olive groves, through vineyards, along pine forests. I fell among thieves, and a great white bear rose on its hind legs in front of me. When did you find the time to wander like that? Oh, I traveled while the class was busy with their exams. But how did you pass the exams then? That's easy. I never did pass. All right, get on with the story. Now, shortly before I set out on that journey, I had read in the Arabian Nights about the beautiful princess of China. And wonder of wonders, I chanced upon her in my travels on the banks of the Fuchao River. The landing place was paved in marble, leading up to a pavilion of blue stone. There was a champak tree on each side, with a stone lion at its foot. Incense burned in gold censers, and the smoke rose in coils. One maid was doing up the princess's hair, while two others fanned her, one with a yak's tail. I somehow appeared before her all of a sudden. She was feeding her milk-white peacock with pomegranate seeds. She gave a start and asked, "Who are you?" I remembered in a flash. I was the crown prince of Bengal. How could that be? You were only... Questions again. I'm telling you, I was the crown prince of Bengal for that day. And that's what saved me. Otherwise, she would have had me thrown out there and then. Instead, she gave me tea in a golden cup. Tea laced with chrysanthemums, bearing the most marvelous scent. Did she marry you after all that? Now, that's something very secret. Nobody knows to this day. Kusmi clapped her hands. It happened. I know it happened. You married the princess in the very grandest way. Plainly, she would be very upset if it didn't work out like that. Yes, in the end, she married me all right. I got my princess Angchani and half the kingdom of Hangzhou as well. And then... Then what? Did you set off on your camel again? Else, how did I come back to be your grandpa? Yes, I climbed back onto my camel. The camel that went nowhere. The Fusung bird flew caroling over my head. The Fusung bird? Where does it live? Oh, it lives nowhere, but its tail feathers are blue, its wings yellow, and there's a brown patch on its shoulders. They flew off in great numbers and perched on the hachang tree. I've never heard of the hachang tree. Nor have I. I only just thought of it as I was telling you the story. That's the sort of person I am. I am never ready beforehand. I tell you whatever I see, even as I am seeing it. Today my Fusung bird has flown across the sea. I haven't had news of it for ages. But what about your marriage? And the princess? I won't answer you that, my dear. So you'd better stop asking. And anyway, you mustn't let it upset you. You weren't even born then. Remember?
Dear friends, I hope you carefully followed the reading of the story and you followed in your literary reader. Now we shall go and see the story. Grandpa, that more than truth you were talking about the other day, is it to be found only in fairyland? Not at all, my dear, said I. There is a lot of it in this world of ours. You only need to look, but of course you must have the eye to spot it. Can you see it? In the beginning of the story itself, a question is being asked to grandfather. What it is, Grandpa? That more than truth you were talking about the other day, is it to be found only in fairyland? So the question is about the other day, a story which is being told by the grandfather. and this child is uh, doubtful, that will not happen really on this world, which will happen only in fairyland. When what was the reply from our grandfather? Not at all, my dear, said I. There is a lot of it in the world of ours. Yes, you shouldn't think that what I have told the other day happened only in fairyland. There are a lot of things that happen in this very world of ours also. You only need to look. The only thing that means you have to have an open eye and to see it and look into it. But of course, you must have the eye to spot it. So can you see it? So you should have the imagination. You should have the ability to see it. That's one power I do have. Grandfather is telling that power I do have. I suddenly catch sight of things that aren't meant to be seen. All of a sudden, I see all these things. I have the power to see these things. When you sit by my side learning your geography, I remember my own studies. When you children are sitting by my side and learning your geography lessons, I remember my own studies. Grandfather remember his own studies. That Yangtze River of yours, every time I read the name, it conjured up a kind of geography that was absolutely no use in passing exams. Conjured means to things appear like in a magic. All these are imaginations. I do remember that river Yangtze Kiang while you read it in your geography studies. Even now I can see that long caravan with its enormous load of silk. Yes, caravans carrying the silks, they're moving. I once found a place on the back of one of those camels. Yes, one of those camels moving, I found a place. Come off it, Grandpa. I know you never rode a camel in your life. The children is telling what? You are lying. No, we knew very well that you never been on a camel. Really, Didi, you asked too many questions. Grandfather is really, I did travel on a camel. I rode on a camel. Yes, you are asking too many questions. Never mind, go on. What happened then? Where did you get a camel from? The other child. Yes, never mind. Let her ask many questions and let her doubt on that you never did travel on a camel. You tell me, carry on. What happened when? When did you get on a camel from? Where did you get from a camel from? From where it happened? There another question already. Yes, the other child asked this question. I never worry about finding camels. What is the reply of grandfather? Oh, I never worried about finding camels. I simply climb onto one. Whether or not I visit other lands, nothing stops me from traveling. That's the way I am. All these are imaginations. It's not necessary for me to visit other lands. Even without that, I travel on camels. I go everywhere. I travel everywhere. Well, what happened after that? Now the next question from the children. Then tell us what happened after that. After that, I passed through many grand cities one by one. Funcheng, Hangzhou, Chengcheng, Chengkung. I crossed so many deserts, finding my way at night by the stars. At night, how did grandfather find out way? Looking at the stars. Many place names like Funcheng, Hangzhou, Chengkung, all these like Chinese names, no? And then I came upon the jungle-like food of the Ulkush mountains. Ushkush mountains. Past olive groves through vineyards. Past olive groves through vineyards along pine forest. I fell among thieves, and a great white bear rose on its hind legs in front of me. Yes, all these things are coming in the mind of grandfather. Imaginations. When did you find the time to wander like that? Now the children are asking another question. Hello, grandfather, when did you get time to like this wander like this? You are talking about you have been to those places in Hung Chung, like that places in and to that mountain. or in vineyards, among pine trees. Yes, traveling like rode on camels. Oh, I traveled while the class was busy with their exams. When did this grandfather travel? When the class was busy with the exams. I think you also travel while the class is going on through the imagination, daydreaming. But how did you pass the exams then? The next question, how did you pass the next? While exam was going on, you were dreaming or you were imagining that as if you were traveling like this. Actually, children might have thought that when the fellow students were writing exam, the grandfather left the class and traveled. Uh, that's easy. I never did pass. What is the reply? That is very easy. I never did pass. What a grandfather, no? I never did pass any exams. All right, get on with the story. Okay, you didn't pass any exam, so no problem. You carry on with our story. Let's continue our story. Wonderful grandfather, no? Now, shortly before I set out on that journey, I had read in the Arabian Nights about the beautiful princess of China and wonder of wonders. I chanced upon her in my travels on the banks of the Fuchao River. The landing place was paved in marble, leading up to the pavilion of the blue stone. There was a champak tree on each side with a stone lion at its foot. Incense burnt in gold censers, and the smoke rose in coils. One maid was doing up the princess' hair, while two others fanned her, one with a yak's tail. I somehow appeared before her all of a sudden. She was feeding her milk-white peacock with pomegranate seeds. She gave a start and asked, "Who are you?" Grandfather is cooking up another story. He read the Arabian Nights about beautiful princess of China. Yes. After reading that, he himself made a character in that story. And where he did land, he landed in Chinese bank of a Chinese river, Fuchao River. And the landing place was paved with marble, leading up to the pavilion of blue stone. There was a champak tree on each side with stone lion at its foot. Yes, the sculpture of a lion made up of stone. There was a incense burned in gold censers. Those purify the air to forgive wonderful smell. Incense were being burned, which was what kind of censers? Gold censers that was burned in the gold censers. And the smoke rose in coils. The smoke rose in the air like coils. One maid was doing up the princess' hair. Yes, once a girl maid servant was arranging or just taking care of princess' hair, while two others fanned her. They were fanning in those days, no? Yes, a fan was used. One with a yak's tail. It is with the yak's tail. I somehow appeared before her all of a sudden. Somehow this my grandfather, he managed to appear before the Chinese princess. She was feeding her milk-white peacock. She was feeding her peacock. And the color of peacock is white, milk-white. And pomegranate seeds, what was being fed? Pomegranate seeds. She gave a start. She got wanted at my sight and asked me, "Who are you?" I remembered in a flash. I was the Crown Prince of Bengal. I told what? I was a Crown Prince of Bengal. How could be that be? You were only, children were, grandfather told Chinese princess that he is the Prince of Bengal. Now children will have naturally the doubt, how could you were only an ordinary man here, no? Questions again. I am telling you, I was the Crown Prince of Bengal for that day. Yes. There is no question in stories. There is no point in asking questions when a story is being delivered. On that day, I was the Prince of Bengal. That's it. And that's what saved me. Only by telling that, that saved me. and that was saved me. Otherwise, she would have had been thrown out of there and then. So by telling the Princess of Bengal, that only saved me. Prince of Bengal, that saved me. If I hadn't told like that, I might have been thrown out of there. Instead, she gave me tea in a golden cup, tea laced with the chrysanthemums, bearing the most marvelous scent. What is this chrysanthemum? Chrysanthemum is a large bright colored garden flower that is shaped like a ball and is made up of many long narrow petals. Yes, it's a kind of flower. Did she marry you after all that? Again the question. Now that's something very secret. Nobody knows to this day. The question came from yes, what? Did she marry you after all that? Anyway, tea was provided in golden cup and so on. Now, grandfather, it's a secret. Nobody knows to this day. Kusmi clapped her hands. Yes, it happened. I know it happened. Yes. The girl told what? Yes, you married the princess in the very grandest way. Yes, all the fairy tales are so, no? Yes, a prince will marry a princess or princess will marry a prince. Yes, that's why what Kusmi pointed out. And she's thinking the marriage took in such a grand way. Yes, a prince is marrying a princess. So there is no question, it would be a grand program. Plainly, she would be very upset if it didn't work out like that. Yes, in the end, she married me all right. I got my princess Antony and half the kingdom of Hangzhou as well. And then what? Did you set off on your camel again? Else, how did I come back to be your grandpa? Yes, I climbed back onto my camel, the camel that went nowhere. The Fung Sung bird flew caroling over my head. Yes, that had happened. Grandfather married that princess, and what all things? I got my princess Antony and half of the kingdom of Hangzhou as well. And then what? Did you set off on your camel again? The child asked, yes, marriage, everything was over, you got the half of the kingdom. So, else how did I come back to your grandpa? Now I am going to tell you, again I became your grandpa, I came back from there. How? I climbed back onto my camel, the camel that went nowhere. Yes, he is telling the truth. I came back to that. Yes, the Fung Sung bird flew caroling over my head. Now a bird came there. But the Fung Sung bird, where does it live? What kind of bird it is? Oh, it lives nowhere. There is no camel as such, there is no bird as such. That's a reality. All these are grandparents' wild imaginations. But its tail feathers are blue. The color of its tail feathers, blue. Its wings, yellow. The color of wings, yellow. There is a brown patch on its shoulders. They flew off in a great number and perched on the Hanchang tree. Yes, they landed on the Hanchang tree. I had never heard of Hanchang tree. Again a question, doubt from here and there. Nor have I. Grandfather, even I also didn't hear about such a tree. I only just thought of it as if I was telling you the story. Oh, it's not because I was telling a story to you, know. So there is, even though I haven't heard about such a tree, I thought of just telling you about such a tree. Is it? That's a sort of person I am. You understand, your grandfather, myself, I'm a person like that. I'm able to tell any stories that I haven't even heard of. I'm able to tell any stories that I haven't done or I haven't never been to. Such a person, great person, I myself. That's what grandfather claims. I'm never ready beforehand. I tell you whatever I see. Yes, I don't prepare any story in advance. All of a sudden, what comes to my mind, I say it. Even as I am seeing it. And I am able to present it as if I had seen everything or in the way I see it. Today, my Fung Sung bird has flown across the sea. I haven't had news of it for ages. Today, this bird has flown across the sea. I haven't had news of it for ages. For ages there was no news from it. But what about your marriage and the princess? We were now the question. Then what about your marriage and princess? I won't answer you that, my dear. So you better stop asking. And anyway, you mustn't let it upset you. You weren't even born then, remember. Yes. Again question, already our princess marriage, everything left there. Camel is here. And princess, all of a sudden a bird came there. The color of the bird like that, like that. Yes. Now children lost the connection or the story. Then grandfather, I won't answer you that, my dear. You better stop asking questions. And anyway, you mustn't let it upset you. By thinking about this story too much, you need not get upset also. You weren't even born then. These things happen even before you were born. Remember, Rabindranath Tagore, story has come to an end. My dear friends, you have got a grandfather, if I say in that way, like our Harish Kanaran, who is telling, just gossiping or making as if something less. All these were lies being told by, in the disguise as a story by this grandfather. I hope you love this grandfather who is able to cook up story for the grandchildren in a wonderful way. Though they are lies, children loves listening to. He told his own a story like a fairy tale in which he himself is a character or part in it. So it's like children loves listening to stories by grandparents. Now we have few question answers. Why would the geography conjured up by the Yangtze Kiang River not help anyone to pass an exam? Grandfather dreamt of caravans and had imaginary adventures when he thought about the Yangtze Kiang River. There was a little that was factually correct in what he dreamt. The children would not learn any detailed facts about the river and the geography of the land which would help them score marks in an examination. Did Grandpa do any of the following things? Ride a camel, travel to foreign countries, cross many deserts, enter a jungle at the foot of Ushkush mountains, confront a white bear? Tick all correct choices. No, he did not actually do any of these things. All those things were his lies or imaginations. What was Princess doing when Grandpa saw her? She was feeding her white peacock with the pomegranate seeds. What did he tell the princess about himself? Why did it save him? He said he was the crown prince of Bengal. She was a princess and she entertained only royalty. Had he told her the truth about his humble origin, she might have had him arrested or killed, at least been thrown out of the palace. That's the sort of person I am. What sort of person was he, our grandfather? He was a wonderful man who had the ability to make up imaginative and fantastic stories. Do you find more than true details in a book on science, fairy tales, fables, the balance sheet of a bank? B and C. That means fairy tales, fables. Fairy tales and fables appeal to children alone. Do you agree that? What is fairy tale actually? Fairy tale or wonder tale, magic tale is a kind of instance of a folk tale, belongs to folk tale type that takes the form of a short story. Such stories typically feature entities such as dwarfs, dragons, elves, fairies, giants, gnomes, goblins, griffins, mermaids, talking animals, trolls, unicorns, or witches. It's usually magic or enchantments. In most cultures, there is no clear line separating myth from folk or fairy tale. All these together form a literature of pre-literate societies. So it's a traditional stories, fairy tales, by mouth, by telling from one generation to a past, from another past to another generation. Children love listening to stories, not reading them. What is your opinion about that? It's true, really true that children love listening to stories, not reading them. One such reason, children has good imagination power rather than understanding. When they read, they feel quite a lot of difficulty. They feel understanding the story, and they can't draw a picture in their mind what they are reading. But if someone reads the stories to them, for them, they have someone who can help them with the queries, and they imagine the story in a reality. Also, as they are still developing study skills, it would be hard to read themselves. So, dear students, our today's English class has come to an end. Read this story, complete your notes, and complete your copy books, and prepare very well for tomorrow's online test. Thank you. Take care.